Angel Reese's return to the lineup, Ariel Atkins' minutes restriction being uplifted. What does all that mean for the Chicago Sky? Find out on today's episode. Welcome to another episode of CHGO Sky, here with your host, PridGeon-Garner. As always, thank you again and always for your time and your support and any bit of your attention that you allow for me to kind of hear a conversation with. So, again, appreciate y'all as always tapping in, making the time to support us. We genuinely and earnestly appreciate it. We put the work in and look to always give you all a show that either keeps you informed, entertained, or more often than not, kind of a hybrid of both of those things as we all continue to learn and grow together within just kind of watching and consuming this basketball team and just kind of learning more about them on the fly. So, again, thank you as always. And obviously, big things happened yesterday as far as getting back to the fun, but also getting back to the learning of and for the Chicago Sky. So, naturally, you start off at the top of it all. Angel Reese returning to the lineup for the first time in quite some time, in about 3.5, almost 4 weeks. The return was pretty much what you would expect for a player in their first return. That's of that cloth of player and that of that kind of ranking of players that Angel Reese is. But generally, for the Chicago Sky, a 94-88 loss to the Seattle Storm. It was a very winnable game. They got out to a good start to start things off. I think probably caught Seattle off guard and kind of surprised them a little bit as well. But naturally, the way that the game would flow and the way that Skylar Diggins would lead things for them, they were able to start to get their foot in, start to get some stops. Second quarter was not pretty for the Chicago Sky in any capacity. And that's where a lot of the scoreboard separation that they ultimately worked up against throughout the entirety of the second half, and also what ultimately kept them from coming up just short, even for as kind of as loud and chaotic of a fourth quarter that the Sky did have. They weren't able to ultimately make up the full capacity of that deficit that they were working at after the second quarter. So that just speaks to some of the game process flaws. You can't have quarters where the offense is completely stagnant and you go away from what kind of showed to work against a specific opponent. You also can't put that offensive stagnancy in tandem with the defense falling off a cliff. And just not being able to contain the ball, not communicating as well. All those kind of little things that when you're going up against an average team or one of those teams that has higher desires for this season, you just don't have much of any margins for error, especially if you're a Chicago Sky team that's working with your own injury adversity and bouts with that. So generally speaking, obviously, yes, the win-loss matters most. And this team did lose this game yesterday against the Seattle Storm. But process-wise, this was a significant boost up for multiple reasons, which we'll be diving into in today's episode. So first thing we speak to, obviously, we talked about the score from yesterday's game, kind of dove into a little bit of what was happening ebb and flow-wise over the course of it. In it all, however, was Angel Reese. And Sarah, we could go ahead and get the Angel Reese graphic up and just kind of speak to Angel's return. So she had 19 points for the Sky, tied the team in terms of leading and scoring with Ariel Atkins at 19. She was 9 for 13 from the field. Very impressive. Showed the consistency and the growth around the basket in terms of finishing and just generally operating better there. The rebounding prowess was on display, not as much as it typically is, but it was definitely there as a presence. You want to have tip to Seattle for being in tune with the scouting report and the details of it to mitigate as much of Angel's impact as they could on the boards in particular. But Angel also did have 4 assists for the team and also was able to find a way to get a block in terms of her defensive activity in her return to the floor for them. So they had some good things going on. A lot of it started with Angel and just her presence. I think before speaking to anything else in terms of the game, a team having their best player back is always going to put them in a better position than them operating without said player. You insert Angel Reese, there's a certain type of confidence, there's a certain type of reset button that gets hit for the Chicago Sky team, because now everybody's roles are a lot more akin to what this team was built for their roles to be than the spaces they've had to operate in since Angel's exit from the rotation because of injury. You see players like Ariel Atkins feel a lot better, seem a lot more confident, seem a lot more sharp, have more impact in their game on both ends of the floor because of the presence of Angel Reese and the kind of ease that provides. Just as a presence alone, not even talking about her impact, just the presence and how that garners a certain type of attention on both ends of the court. There's a certain type of confidence a group is going to work with when they have their best player available. And we saw a lot of those displays and dynamics kind of playing out in yesterday's loss. As far as the game, though, with Angel, we showed the stats. Let's hear from Angel herself and kind of speaking about how her first game was and her kind of quick hitting assessments of how it went yesterday. Oh, let's go ahead and get the video of Angel kind of speaking to her return queued up, Sarah.
Yeah, it felt great. I love basketball. It's my pride and joy. Sitting on the sidelines is no fun. Sitting and just doing rehab every single day is no fun, and also just sitting and figuring out what's going on with myself. And I think I learned a lot about myself for the last 4 weeks. But I'm just super grateful for everybody that was in my corner, my teammates, my coaches that were here for me through the whole process. So I'm really happy to be back with the team and just being able to be out there and give them whatever I can.
Man, that's what she does. That's one of many different ways that she shows leadership for her team on the floor. And just the ways in which she goes about showing up when games are happening and when they're in play, it really speaks to just, again, the kind of the overall reset button that she allows for them to hit, even at a later stretch and in a stretch of games where they haven't been playing that well. By just having her around, the team completely looks night and day. And naturally, you're going to look better when your best player is on the floor. So, again, Angel had a very solid showing. Not obviously her most impressive just because they come in a loss. And obviously we've seen her on the double-double streaks and her kind of dominating games and truly being the best player on the floor. She had moments with that last night, but naturally for a player that's coming back after not playing for nearly a month, you're going to see things like this kind of surface. And there was just a little bit of rust, nothing that's, oh my goodness, what happened? There's just naturally getting back into the rhythm in the flow of the game. But her impact was felt in multiple moments, and I feel like her team was a direct beneficiary of it. And to that point, Sarah, if we could go ahead and cue up the video of Tyler Marsh post-game speaking to everything that was Angel Reese's return to the floor for his and her team.
I think that's something that we realized very early this season. I think that the versatility that she brings, it's it's kind of self-explanatory. She's able to stretch the defense because of her ability to handle, and even if she's not shooting outside shots, she still has the ability to play off the dribble and get into the paint. She's a great passer and facilitator. She has great vision, and so she's able to kick to shooters when they're open. She's able to drop off to the bigs when their defender steps up on her paint drives, and so she's turning herself into an all-around player in most aspects. And so again, I think that it's just her being back. It not only adds to our versatility, but it added to just the overall feel and confidence and morale of everyone else around her, just knowing that we're getting back to being fully healthy, and obviously everything that she can do on the court, she makes life easier for her teammates as well. And I think they realize that too.
Yeah, so again, the all-encompassing dynamic that Angel Reese is when she's on the floor for her team, you just can't replace that in any capacity. And the fact that they got that back and they had the type of comeback that they did in the fourth quarter speaks a ton to just what her presence is, how she unlocks a multitude of different things that we'll be getting into in the latter end of today's show. But again, a very impressive things heard from Coach Tyler Marsh. Feels like you can hear the relief in his voice to have his best player back and to be able to continue on that trajectory of growth and usage of her and featuring of her and her just growing into her own as a young woman on the basketball floor, kind of spearheading this new culture for the Chicago Sky. Genuinely and generally felt like a sense of relief for him to have that piece back and to see the immediate impact that she had and that he was able to kind of play into because of her being back. Another big thing in yesterday's game, on the other side of the Angel Reese dynamic of it all, was Ariel Atkins. And like I mentioned, she had 19 points in yesterday's game as well. Very, very loud outburst of scoring from her in the fourth quarter in particular. I mentioned Angel kind of spearheading things in terms of the reset button. Ariel Atkins, in terms of a scoring prowess, spearheaded a lot of what ultimately was that comeback effort that they put forth to the tune of 38 points in the fourth quarter of yesterday's game. So post-game, this is what Ariel Atkins had to say about kind of how she approached that fourth quarter and how she was ultimately able to get that type of result in that period.
Yeah, just trying to stay locked in for us. And as much as I was getting those buckets, I mean, Kia came in was huge for us. I'm really happy about the way that she played tonight because I think that is going to carry over really well for her. That was up top of my mind, but yeah, just energy within us. I mean, I have to take certain shots. They're not always the best shots in the world, but sometimes I got to put them up there because I know I have phenomenal rebounders on the other end. So I ain't gonna lie to you. I just want them up.
Always cool to kind of see those inner player interactions and see them happen organically. Naturally, you've seen it a lot this season with Ariel Atkins being up at the podium with Angel Reese, but that's a vote of confidence from not just her teammates but also the coaching staff that she's asked to take the type of shots that she takes and that she's capable of making the type of shots that she does take, because no one else can really take those for the team. But also no one can really make the shots to the volume and to the extent that she does in a different type of context that she plays in. And the last big thing and all of that as well is the fact that she's also someone that gets a certain type of attention from a defense to where they're going to commit more bodies to her when she's in pick and roll or she's in isolation or she's coming off of an off-ball screen and things like that. That's going to ultimately create an advantage and opportunity for other players on the periphery from where she's operating. That is what an offense is in and of itself. If you have a piece that can garner extra attention and the Sky have multiple, especially when they feature them to those kind of strengths and those capabilities, it creates all types of overloads and overreactions from an opponent that allows for them to then play off of themselves. So again, Ariel Atkins, very, very impressive performance. She accounted for 17 of the team's 38 points in that fourth quarter. She scored 10. And then she had 7 assist points created yesterday in that fourth quarter. So really helping to spearhead things from the offensive side of things for the Sky in that comeback effort. Want to make sure we mention that part. Another big thing, another big key component to yesterday's game for the Chicago Sky, and this is very impressive, they hit their season high in assists in yesterday's game. And I want to kind of kick it to Coach Marsh for you all to hear what he had to say about the kind of ball movement and the types of advantages they were able to create because they were so consistently trusting the pass and the next pass and the next pass kind of time and time again. So here's Coach Tyler Marsh speaking post-game about them hitting that assist feat that I just got done speaking to and how we kind of saw it play out over the course of the game for them.
It was great. I thought we executed the offensive game plan for most of the game. I thought that we were intentional about how we wanted to space the floor and give looks to our bigs inside, but then also playing inside out and being able to create outside shots as well. Still want to be able to get up a few more threes, but I think the paint, we really thrived in the paint in that second half. And so that's always our strength, is based on what the nature of our team is. And so we want to utilize that to the best of our ability. And when it's not going inside, we want to be able to still be able to garner that attention, to be able to open up some stuff for our shooters outside.
Very, very important. That shows the adaptability that him and his brain trust have over the course of a game to figure out how to get the best out of their roster, but also how to counterpunch against what an opponent is doing. So looking at yesterday's game, speaking to the assist, and we'll kind of dive into the numbers of that a little bit more after this. There's a play in the third quarter that really stood out to me, and it's not something that we haven't seen them do before, but the timing at which it happened and the kind of cadence of play within it, and kind of seeing the different IQs of all the players kind of playing off of one another in a sense. It was honestly harmonic in multiple respects. So They're trying to get into a side pick and roll early in the shot clock on the left side of the floor with Rachel Banham, and she's got, I think it was Camila Cardoso that's screening for her. So what Seattle's doing, customary to their defense for the last handful of years, especially under Noelle Quinn, they're getting into what's called ice covers, where they're trying to keep the ball on the outer third of the floor and not allow for players to get a paint touch or be able to kind of threaten the nail or the paint area of the floor off of a dribble drive. And what they're trying to do is limit the options for the ball handler, slow the offense down, and be able to kind of steal back the pace and kind of play the game in the half court on their terms. What the Chicago Sky did on this play, which was very impressive to me, it was the way, like I mentioned, the multiple IQs kind of working off of one another and read and react to create new advantage and then ultimately execute off of the advantage that they are able to create. So what ice coverage does, because of the way that Seattle defended it, they take away the roll with their nail help and things like that. So Camila Cardoso can't get into a true roll to the basket. She also can't even set a true screen for Rachel Banham because of the ways that it's essentially like a soft double team to keep the ball handler towards the sideline. So what Camila Cardoso does after Rachel Banham kind of threatens that help a little bit is she just pops to the top of the key, which is wide open. Good job from them in terms of their spacing process, like Tyler Marsh mentioned. What they also do within that, as Camila Cardoso pops to the top of the key to receive the pass and be an outlet to the second side, where it's both Angel Reese and Ariel Atkins that are spaced, is once Camila gets the ball, Angel immediately dives to the middle of the paint and seals and posts up, keeps her matchup to her backside, and she's facing the rim. So she has the leverage underneath if the pass is able to get there to her. But the other component within all of that is not just the initial template for spacing that you're working with. It's also about what your teammates are doing around it to allow for you to have a clean catch so that advantage that you ultimately do create isn't deterred in any capacity by extra help. And this is where the veteran IQ and the kind of balancing of it all, it matters most for the Chicago Sky. I mentioned this Ariel Atkins on the same side as Angel Reese. What Ariel Atkins does on this rep is she relocates from the deep corner opposite of where the pick and roll between Rachel Banham and Camila Cardoso takes place, deep into that opposite corner. As the pass goes to Angel, or even kind of a little bit before that, she times it up, syncs it up with the pass from Camila to ultimately take away that lower layer of help so that advantage that Angel seal creates can be as much as it possibly can so long as the pass gets there. And because she does that in sync with Angel, winning on leverage, getting downhill, and then posting up and kind of sealing to keep that leverage underneath, and Camila making the timing pass from there from the top of the key in the high-low nature, they're able to score at a crucial moment where they start to kind of undo some of that momentum that was working against them in that second quarter. That play is very important because they don't get to the assists that they ultimately racked up over the course of this game without that. There's multiple instances of secondary assists and them just trusting the pass and keeping the Seattle Storm defense in rotation and creating new advantage after making multiple passes that ultimately leads to a wide open catch and shoot three-point opportunity, or them hitting a cutter, or them creating some advantage and kind of creating something out of nothing, essentially, sometimes later in the shot clock. These little moments like that for the Sky are very important. I think it speaks to all of the buy-in that's been generated from Tyler Marsh and company in this kind of post-All-Star break stretch where they've been operating without Angel, because they understood that they would have to move the ball to get the best out of their team. And with that being said, Sarah, if we could go ahead and get the graphic of their passes in terms of on the season, the Sky's passing prowess versus Seattle in particular. And I want to be on the right side of this, kind of ranking it based off of how they performed over the course of the season. So I mentioned early on the 30 assists was their most in the season. The 68 assist points created, so points because of the assists that they were able to generate, also the most that they've created so far this season as well. 319 total passes made over the course of that game speaks to them kind of counter-punching, like I mentioned, what Seattle's coverage was, all the pressure that they like to put on the ball and on the strong side of the floor, trusting that pass to get to the second side and playing through that. That's a key number. That's a big number. 7 secondary assists. So that play that I just got done mentioning where Rachel Banham runs a pick and roll and they ultimately score because of the pick and roll, but not directly in it, that's a secondary assist for Rachel Banham. She hits the roller or she hits the popper, and the popper passes it to the person that ultimately scores the ball for the team, tied for their most in the season with 7. And then the last big number for me from yesterday's game, 76 passes that led to a shot. That's their second most kind of documented over the course of this season. That number is very important for me. Back to the buy-in point that I mentioned from Tyler Marsh and company generating that, it's important because that means that that's really indicative of the trust and the buy-in that his group has generated from the team, but also the team kind of having a light bulb moment and seeing that this truly works if we buy into it, and they can kind of reap the benefits of it in multiple capacities. You don't get to Kia Nurse's multiple moments of scoring, especially in that fourth quarter, but generally over the course of that game, without the volume of passes that they were capable of and willing to make, especially, like I mentioned, in counterpunching the defense of Seattle. So those numbers very, very, very important. I don't think this is an anomaly. They might not necessarily get to the extent of resetting career highs for the team over the course of a season in terms of passing in multiple respects, like we just displayed on that graphic. But what's very important within all of that is the fact that they are clearly trusting it. There's multiple instances of the ball kind of pinging around the floor, and Angel gets it under the basket after a cut. And because she gets attention because of who she is and who she is around the rim, she's able to just catch it and make a quick pass to the opposite corner where that extra help came from. And now in situations where if she forced the shot up, she's capable of making it or getting fouled, but the quality of that shot is not the same because of the double team. Now you got somebody like Ariel Atkins or one of their other plus catch and shoot three-point shooters able to take and make wide open catch and shoot opportunities because of the attention, but also because of the volume of passes and the natural scrambling nature that it consistently puts the defense in. All of those things very, very important. It was fun to see that dynamic play out for them and to see them trust it to the extent that they did when the adversity hit most. And that's when they were at that deficit going into the second half, and especially to climb back out of things in that fourth quarter in particular. So that was honestly one of the more fun Chicago Sky games. Yes, they did not win the game, but the process was certainly processing for them. We saw a lot of Camilla and her growth kind of take place where she's getting into post-ups in situations where she might not have understood or processed quickly enough how to create a new advantage, and them ultimately scoring because of the ways in which she's able to process things. So all of those things just very, very important for them. And now for this last kind of handful of minutes for today's episode, we can go ahead and dive into the Angel Reese of it all. So looking at the Chicago Sky this season, they're 7 points better per 100 possessions when Angel Reese is on the floor. That number is not a mistake in any capacity, but it speaks to multiple things, and it's not just her ability to put the ball in the basket. I think this season may be the loudest development point for her, like Tyler Marsh mentioned when we played the video of him speaking to her dynamic playing out in her return. It's the versatility. She's a player that can initiate the offense. She can do so for half of your possessions and get you into multiple different types of actions and put a different type of pressure on the defense because it's not one of the opponent's guards that's defending the ball handler at the point of attack where an advantage is being created. It's Angel. And that's kind of flipping the way that teams typically like to defend. You usually have your big behind the play communicating with your guard what type of coverage they're in and what's going on around them. When you flip that, now you put it in the inverse fashion, and now the guards have to be on time and on schedule with their communication. They also have to understand how to navigate it well too, because Angel's a player that takes advantage of players that are smaller than her in multiple different ways. And I think that type of pressure that they're able to put on a defense, whether she's initiating an offense or she's getting it on a short roll or she's sealing in between a play happening or she's getting a post up or a mid-post touch or elbow touch, all of these different ways in which she helps to pressure a defense for the Sky offense really kind of plays into that the team being 7 points better per 100 possessions when she's on the floor. The other big thing within all of that is obviously and naturally the grab and goes for her, where she's pairing her multifaceted skill set all into one kind of dynamic. So obviously we know Angel's the best rebounder in the WNBA. Shocker, no surprise there. What's key about that is that because she has the handle and the versatility that she does on the offensive end, she's able to pair her elite level rebounding with a skill that's elite amongst front court ball handlers, so power forwards and centers. There's few that handle the ball better or as good as Angel does. And the fact that she can pair that ball handling with her rebounding creates pace. And that pace, or that tempo, if you will, allows for the Sky to play faster. Imagine those situations where someone else grabs a rebound and they're holding it for 1 or 2 seconds and they're trying to find a guard to outlet it to, and then they're getting into their offense. You just took away 2 to 3 seconds off of the shot clock. That leaves you with less time to create an advantage as an offense in the half court, but it also allows for the defense time to get back, get their matchup set, and get into their defensive shell for whatever type of coverages or schemes that it is they want to get into. When you take away that opportunity for a defense to start to try to dictate to you as an offense, you put yourself in great position to create an advantage and force the defense to make mistakes in some capacity, whether it be a slip up in coverage or a slip up in communication or matchups not being set because it's Angel that just grabbed it and took it off the backboard and flew into the half court. Whether she's going to get a direct paint touch and it's spraying out to one of their many catch and shoot 3-point shooters, or she's getting into an early offense dribble handoff or receiving an early offense step-up screen in some capacity from one of the guards. There's little things like that that Angel just really helps for them to proverbially, literally, and figuratively turn corners with in their process. Her being back unlocks a lot of those things. You talk about the amount of passes that they make. Because of some of the attention that Angel gets in the multiple capacities that she works in, those passes create a little bit more of an advantage than they did when she wasn't around because of the ways in which a defense has to be held to account to take away her paint touches and take away her offensive rebounding opportunities. If you're committing 2 to her in any capacity, that means that a Rachel Bannum or a Rebecca Gardner, or a Rebecca Allen or an Ariel Atkins or a Sevgi Uzun who's shown to be comfortable taking shots from deep. Their opportunity to take higher quality shots that are a little bit more wide open than they were in these previous 3.5 weeks while Angel was out, it is different. And the rhythm and the cadence of everything happening on the offensive end is different as well. So I don't think that plus 7 points per 100 possessions number is something to scoff at or just to kind of briefly look over and then just continue on. That's something that's very relevant for a Chicago Sky team that has had many bouts with process, many bouts with tempo, many bouts with flow on the offensive end of the floor. And again, that just gets back to the master reset button that I mentioned at the top of the show that she hits for them. She just understands her role. She doesn't force it. She understands how to get the ball to each of the players, whether it be getting into dribble handoffs with Ariel Atkins, but making sure that Ariel is getting it from the right side of the floor so that when she comes off of that handoff, she's getting to her strong hand, her left hand. Little things like that, Angel understands, and she helps to put people in better positions. One of the other big things for me with Angel, and obviously this is kind of putting things together. We talked a lot about Camila Cardoso the last handful of weeks. Naturally, she's been playing better. She's been used a little bit differently. Her impact has grown. Finding a way for both of those two's skill development and growth to combine into one process. That's probably the most key thing I'm looking at down this home stretch, and that goes for both ends of the floor. When Angel's doing the things that she does on the defensive end, how is Camila finding pockets to have that impact that she showed to have in those moments where Angel wasn't on the floor? And that kind of goes in tandem with everything that is on the offensive end when Angel has the ball. And even vice versa, when Camila's doing the things that she showed to be dominant at, what's Angel doing on the periphery? I don't think in any capacity that they get in each other's way. I think that Tyler Marsh and company have grown in terms of featuring those two better together in tandem with one another to where it doesn't feel like they're fighting for positioning in the post. It's very much, okay, Camilla's setting the screen. If I'm Angel and I'm on a weak side dunker spot or I'm in a weak side corner, if Camilla's setting this screen up there and there's no big because of where their shooters are on the floor in the paint, I have an opportunity to cut to seal or cut to post. And those opportunities rinse and repeat in both of those two players switching roles because Camilla understanding that she can do the very same thing, and that's going to create an advantage and opportunity for them to manipulate space and really kind of find plays inside the play and inside the actions that they're running to where it doesn't feel like they're hitting snags and that they're constantly able to create advantages and put a defense in rotation and put pressure on the defense. All of these little things, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for them down this latter stretch of games to continue to shift their process and continue to grow within it and continue to evolve and adapt it as well as their two best players continue to grow into their own individual dynamics. So that's going to be one of the most key things for me going forward. I think that they have a nice compilation of opponents, starting with tomorrow's game against the New York Liberty, where they'll have an opportunity to go up against some teams that have some fun kind of inner game dynamics and inner game matchups that they'll have to work up against. So very important to note those things. Generally speaking, knock on wood, first of all, before anything else, health sustaining. They should be able to turn some corners within their process, have some fun on the floor, and potentially put a cap onto a season that might not necessarily result in what some of us maybe thought it would be if the team was healthy, which would have been a playoff berth in some capacity, but still finding ways to just grow within their process, be a better version of themselves, apply lessons learned earlier in the season, and again, just continue to put together everything that has made Angel and Camila great in their individual respects, putting it into one synergy and allowing for it to be a two-way kind of dynamic that helps for them to continue to dictate to their opponents. So there you have it for today's Chicago Sky, or CHGO Sky episode, speaking to everything that is the Chicago Sky. And obviously a loss that took place yesterday, but not one that doesn't suggest that they're turning corners and that they are hitting the kind of reset button in most respects, getting their best player back. So be on the lookout for those things. Obviously got some fun things happening on the court with Angel being back in addition to Camilla's growth, Ariel Atkins having her minutes restriction uplifted. Will be fun to watch those three kind of synergize and find ways to put impact on the game against some of these higher level opponents. But appreciate you all for always coming in, checking us out, listening to us, watching us on YouTube, engaging with us on Twitter. We appreciate it all. Got more fun things coming for you all going forward. And try to enjoy the basketball. I know there's been a lot of discourse, a lot of conversations being had, but this team is in a place where they can grow from, and that's always something that you can build from. So getting their best player back, getting their ducks back in the row as much as they can, and kind of getting to the finish line from a place of confidence and not just surviving through that is important. So be on the lookout for those things that we talked about with Angel, as well as the team and the passing and Tyler Marsh and his growth in process with the team. And we'll talk to you all next week on another episode of CHGO Sky. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at CHGO_Sky. You can follow me on Twitter at StephenPG3, STEPHEN PG3. And we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks again.
We all silly like the mayor.